The universe is vast and silent, a never-ending ocean of darkness broken only by the faint hum of distant stars. For billions of years, planets, comets, and asteroids have moved in familiar patterns around our sun. But every once in a while, something different enters our solar system, something that doesn't belong here. In late 2019, astronomers' telescopes in Hawaii picked up a faint, fast-moving dot across the night sky. At first, it looked like another comet until its path revealed the impossible. It wasn't orbiting our Sunday, it was passing through from somewhere far beyond. This object was named 3I Atlas, the third interstellar visitor ever detected by humans. The word interstellar means between the stars. It tells us that 3I, Atlas, wasn't born near Earth or even in the neighborhood of our Sunday. It came from a completely different star system, traveling alone through the galaxy for millions, maybe even billions of years before drifting into our corner of space. Think about that for a moment. A frozen piece of another world carrying the chemical fingerprints of a distant sun now wandering through our skies. Where did it come from? What could it have seen out there in the endless dark? And more importantly, what secrets does this traveler from another sun carry? It all began with a faint flicker, a pixel of light caught by the asteroid terrestrial impact last alert system, better known as ATLAS. The system, designed to spot asteroids that might threaten Earth, scans the skies every night for anything unusual. But on that quiet evening, it detected something that didn't fit any known pattern. An object moving too fast, far too fast. Within hours, observatories across the world, from Hawaii to Chile, from Spain to the Canary Islands, turned their telescopes toward the mysterious traveler. Its trajectory was strange. Instead of looping around the sun like ordinary comets, it was diving in from deep interstellar space, slicing through our solar system on a hyperbolic path. It wasn't bound by the sun's gravity, it was just passing through. Scientists were stunned. This was no ordinary comet. It was the third interstellar object ever discovered, following Oumuamua in 2017 and Borisov in 2019. But unlike those, 3I Atlas behaved differently. It seemed to shimmer oddly, glowing with a light that didn't quite match any known chemical signature. Even its tail, that long stream of vapor and dust left behind by comets, seemed to pulse and flicker in unpredictable rhythms, like it was alive. The name 3I stands for Third Interstellar. But scientists soon began to refer to it as something more poetic, the stranger beyond the stars. As data poured in, experts tried to make sense of its origin. Its speed suggested it came from far away, perhaps from a star system tens of trillions of kilometers distant. The object had likely been drifting between suns for millions of years, untouched, unseen, carrying within it the frozen history of another world. Imagine that a piece of ancient cosmic debris, older than human civilization itself, now brushing past our solar home like a message written in ice and dust. When the first close-up spectral readings came through, scientists noticed something odd. The surface composition of 3I Atlas didn't match any known pattern in our solar system. No asteroid, no comet, no known material reflected light in the same way. It had traces of elements that shouldn't exist in that ratio, like fragments forged in a different kind of sun under different cosmic conditions. For astronomers, this was like finding a bottle drifting across an infinite ocean, carrying a message from another civilization not written in words, but in the language of physics and chemistry. Every molecule of 3I Atlas was a clue. Every spectral reading, a whisper from the past. It wasn't just another space rock, it was a visitor from another star, and no one knew why it had come here or what it was about to do. Then came the first shock. As it approached the inner solar system, something unexpected began to happen. Its brightness started fluctuating wildly, far more than any comet should. It was as if the object was responding to sunlight or something else. Every telescope that turned toward it recorded the same strange rhythm flashes, pulses, irregular glows like a cosmic heartbeat echoing across the void. That's when astronomers realized, whatever 3I Atlas was, it was unlike anything humanity had ever seen before. For weeks, astronomers around the world kept their eyes fixed on 3I Atlas. It was fast, mysterious, and unpredictable, but still, it was stable. Every calculation, every trajectory line drawn by scientists showed that it was behaving like a normal interstellar comet. Until it wasn't. Then, without warning, no collision, no solar flare, no gravitational pull from any nearby planet, 3I Atlas suddenly split in two. It didn't explode or shatter like an asteroid under stress. It didn't crumble apart like ice heated by the sunday. It divided cleanly, smoothly, perfectly down the middle, as if some invisible hand had cut it with surgical precision. Astronomers were speechless. This wasn't just unusual, it was impossible. Every natural object in space, from the tiniest pebble to the largest planet, follows the same physical laws. When something breaks apart, it leaves chaos behind fragments, dust, irregular pieces flying in all directions. But 3I Atlas didn't do that. There were no fragments, no debris, no dust trail, just two identical halves drifting away from each other in complete silence, like two sides of a mirror reflecting the same mystery. Within minutes, telescopes and deep space sensors began recording data from every possible angle. The split had created Object A and Object B, two perfectly symmetrical halves. Both were stable, both were moving with incredible precision. It was as if the separation had been planned, as if the entire event had been engineered. Scientists stared at the data in disbelief. The measurements were too perfect, too exact. The cut was straight to within a margin smaller than a millimeter. No known natural process in the universe could cause such precision. Not temperature change, not internal pressure, not impact, nothing in physics could explain it. And then, something even more shocking happens. A few hours after the split, Object B, one of the halves, simply vanished. Not drifted away, not hidden behind the glare of the sun, not lost in telescope error. It disappeared. Completely. In a fraction of a second, all signals from Object B were gone. Telescopes, radar, radio, nothing could find it. It was as if half of 3I Atlas had been erased from existence. The remaining half, Object A, stayed perfectly still, rotating gently, reflecting faint light from the sunday, but its twin gone without a trace. The disappearance broke every rule of space observations. Humanity can track a piece of debris smaller than a car from thousands of kilometers away. We can detect galaxies billions of light years distant. And yet here was something miles wide traveling through our solar system, and it had just vanished. Scientists across NASA, the European Space Agency, and dozens of observatories around the world went into crisis mode. Data was checked, rechecked, recalibrated. Was it an error? A software glitch? A misread in the instruments? But every piece of equipment, from Earth-based telescopes to deep space monitoring satellites, confirmed the same thing. One half of 3I Atlas had ceased to exist. That was when the questions began to turn darker. What if the split wasn't an accident? What if the disappearance wasn't a failure of detection but a choice? What if something or someone had triggered it? Some scientists suggested wild possibilities. Maybe it was a new kind of energy field, an unknown form of matter, or a dimensional shift. Others whispered about intelligence, about design. Because the way 3I Atlas divided, the way one half remained while the other vanished, was not random. It was controlled, deliberate, precise. Even more chilling was what came next. A few hours after the disappearance, the remaining half object A began to emit a faint, rhythmic signal. It wasn't natural static or random noise. It pulsed at exact intervals, each beat separated by perfect repeating gaps 11 minutes apart. Every telescope that listened picked up the same thing: a pattern, a rhythm, a pulse, like a heartbeat echoing across the void. Was it a natural reaction, a response to the split, or was it a message something trying to communicate? No one knew. But for the first time in human history, we weren't just looking at a visitor from another star. We were staring at something that might be alive, or at least aware. And the terrifying question that haunted every scientist was this: if one half of 3I, Atlas, disappeared, where did it go? For a long time after the split, there was silence. A heavy, suffocating kind of silence that stretched across the solar system. The remaining half of 3I, Atlas, now simply known as Object A, floated quietly in the darkness, perfectly motionless, perfectly still. Scientists stared at the monitors, expecting movement, radiation, or some sign of decay, but nothing came. Then, just as the tension began to fade, something extraordinary happened. At precisely 3 UTC deep space receivers around the world from Chile to Japan began picking up a faint hum. At first, it sounded like static, a background echo from the sun or interstellar dust. But as the data came in, the hum grew stronger, clearer, more structured. The signal wasn't random, it had pattern. Every 11 minutes, a pulse, sharp, perfect, identical, struck the detectors. It wasn't a burst of radiation, but a narrow, focused stream of energy. Each pulse arrived with mathematical precision, down to the nanosecond. This wasn't natural. Nature is chaotic. Even the most stable pulsars, the cosmic clocks of the universe, show tiny fluctuations over time, but not 3I Atlas. Its rhythm was flawless. Every beat was perfectly timed, like the steady heartbeat of a machine. At first, many believed it was just a strange cosmic phenomenon, maybe some unknown form of reaction inside the object. But the deeper they analyzed the signal, the stranger it became. The energy pattern wasn't random noise. It was encoded. When researchers at the European Space Network mapped the pulse sequences into waveforms, a repeating ratio appeared: 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. The prime numbers. It was the same sequence humans had once sent into space decades ago, encoded on the Voyager Golden Record, our own message to the stars, meant to say, "We are here." Now it was as if the universe had answered. The implications were terrifying. Prime numbers are a universal language, a mathematical signature of intelligence. No natural process could produce such perfect spacing, such precise timing. It wasn't an echo or a flare or a burst of radiation. It was communication. The pulse pattern was then analyzed through multiple algorithms: frequency modulation, amplitude variations, binary conversion, and what emerged stunned the scientific world. Hidden within the energy structure were symmetrical waveforms, repeating shapes that mirrored one another like folded paper. To the trained eye, they looked almost like schematics, diagrams of some kind, blueprints written not in ink, but in light. NASA, Harvard, and ESA scientists went silent. Internal communications were encrypted, classified, buried under digital firewalls. Whatever was coming from 3I Atlas was no longer treated as data, it was treated as contact. The strangest part was the signal's direction. It wasn't broadcasting outward into deep space, it was beaming inward, toward the exact coordinates where Object B, the missing half, had disappeared. Like a call, a summons. It was as if Object A was sending a message to its other half, as though the two were still connected, still aware of each other across the emptiness. And then, After 31 minutes of perfect rhythmic pulses, the signal stopped. Complete silence returned. For a few minutes, it seemed like everything was over. But then, deep space sensors picked up something even more alarming, a gravitational ripple, a distortion in space-time itself, faint but unmistakable, moving closer to Earth. Whatever had vanished was coming back. Object B, the missing half of 3I, Atlas, was not gone after all. It was moving, not drifting, not falling, but traveling. Its trajectory was deliberate, its acceleration controlled, and the direction of its movement sent a chill through every observatory on the planet. It was heading straight for us. For hours after the signal stopped, the entire astronomical community was frozen in disbelief. Every telescope, every radar, every satellite pointed toward the last known coordinates of 3I Atlas. The silence was so deep, so absolute, that it almost felt intentional, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Then, exactly 6 hours after the final pulse, a whisper emerged from the dark. Deep space sensors in South America detected a faint gravitational disturbance, not random noise, not a passing comet, but a ripple in space-time, steady and directional. Within minutes, observatories in Hawaii, Japan, and Europe confirmed the same readings. The pattern was unmistakable. Something massive was moving through the outer reaches of the solar system. But this time, the readings didn't match any known comet or asteroid. The gravitational pull was too clean, too stable. Its movement wasn't wild or chaotic, it was controlled. The trajectory pointed straight toward the Sun, and then slightly curved, aligning perfectly with the orbit of Jupiter. That was when the truth became clear. The missing half object B had returned. When the James Webb Space Telescope locked onto the coordinates, what it saw defied every known law of nature. Object B wasn't tumbling through space or spinning wildly from the split. It was moving with eerie precision, slowing down as though it were adjusting its path. That alone was impossible. No natural object can slow itself down in space without propulsion. But the deceleration of Object B was smooth, flawless, and perfectly timed, as if it was under the control of some invisible force. And then came the image. Through Webb's infrared lenses, Object B appeared not as a jagged rock or dusty comet, but as something metallic, smooth, symmetrical, reflective, like liquid metal molded by an unseen hand. It shimmered faintly in the sunlight, giving off no tail, no vapor, no natural signature of gas or ice. It looked manufactured. The data from Webb confirmed the worst suspicions. The surface composition did not match anything known in the solar system. Its reflectivity was near perfect, as though the surface was built to deflect energy, not absorb it. And beneath that reflective shell, faint electromagnetic activity pulsed rhythmically, not random static, but organized, like a machine warming up. And then, as if obeying some unseen command, Object B stopped. It came to a complete halt near Jupiter's orbit, hovering in the vacuum of space, unmoving, silent, and perfectly still. The speed at which it stopped broke every law of physics. There was no explosion, no deceleration burn, no counterforce. It just stopped, as if it had decided to. NASA, the European Space Agency, and even classified military satellites all recorded the same event. Every scientist, every physicist who looked at the data felt the same chill crawl up their spine. This wasn't natural motion. It was control. For several hours, Object B remained motionless. No emissions, no radiation, no signals, just stillness. The kind of stillness that felt alive, like something waiting. And then, without warning, it came to life. At precisely 3 UTC, the same time the first signal had been received from Object A, a massive burst of electromagnetic energy erupted from Object B, not random static, but structured, Coordinated, powerful. Gamma rays, X-rays, microwave signals, and radio waves all pulsing in perfect unison. At first, it looked like chaos, but when the data was decoded, patterns began to emerge: symmetrical waveforms, repeating curves that resembled geometric diagrams. Some scientists described them as blueprints, others as maps. Whatever they were too ordered to be random. Even more unsettling was the direction of the signal. It wasn't broadcasting outward, it was aimed directly at Earth. In that moment, every observatory on the planet went silent. NASA cut public data feeds. The European Space Network encrypted its transmissions. The world's top agencies went dark. No updates, no explanations, nothing. And as Earth's satellites began to lose communication one by one, a terrifying realization began to spread. The signals weren't just reaching Earth, they were interacting with it. Each pulse from Object B corresponded with small disruptions in orbiting satellites. Navigation systems flickered, communication networks glitched, and magnetic sensors on Earth detected subtle but undeniable shifts. It was as if the signal wasn't a message at all, but a command activating something we didn't even know existed. And then, amid the confusion, a chilling pattern was discovered. Object A, the half-still near Mars, had begun to glow. Faint at first, then stronger. A soft blue light pulsing beneath its surface in perfect rhythm with Object B's transmissions. Both halves, one near Mars, one near Jupiter, were now active, synchronized, like two halves of a vast machine spread across millions of miles of space. And as scientists watched in horror, their rotation began to align, perfectly timed, perfectly measured, their axes pointing toward the same place. Not the Sunday, not deep space, but directly toward Earth. At first, no one believed it. The idea that two fragments torn apart millions of kilometers away could now be moving in perfect synchronization was unthinkable. Yet, every telescope confirmed it. 3I Atlas, the interstellar visitor that had once been a mystery, was now something far greater, something alive with intention. Object A, glowing softly near Mars, began to drift inward, following a slow spiral path through the asteroid belt. Object B, stationed near Jupiter, mirrored the movement, tracing an identical arc but in the opposite direction. Their courses were converging, both aiming for the same invisible point in space, a region near Earth's orbit. At first, it was subtle, a faint energy resonance that rippled through the solar system. Instruments in orbit detected it as a background hum, a low-frequency vibration that seemed to grow stronger every hour. But soon, the effects became impossible to ignore. On Earth, the magnetic field began to fluctuate. Compasses shifted slightly off true north. Satellite communication glitched intermittently. Aurora lights, those shimmering veils, usually seen near the poles, started to appear in unexpected places. Over the Sahara, above the Indian Ocean, even flickering faintly over the equator. Scientists scrambled to make sense of it. The twin fragments were not merely glowing, they were communicating, exchanging vast amounts of energy across space. Each time Object A pulsed, Object B responded, creating an electromagnetic wave that rippled through the solar system like an invisible heartbeat. And Earth sat directly between them, caught in the middle of a cosmic conversation. Within days, observatories noticed something stranger still. The fabric of space around them was distorting. Light from distant stars passing near the two objects began to bend, not like through a gravitational lens, but in sharp, flickering patterns, as though the very structure of space-time was rippling. It wasn't gravity. It was something else, a field, vast and coherent, forming between the two halves. And then, one quiet evening, something extraordinary happened. All around the world, instruments detected a sudden, unified pulse, a single flash of energy lasting just 1.3 seconds. It wasn't visible to the naked eye, but satellites recorded it as a massive electromagnetic surge stretching across millions of kilometers. And in that moment, both fragments of 3I, Atlas, flared to life, glowing brighter than ever before, one burning blue, the other deep crimson. For a brief instant, the night sky changed. Even without telescopes, people could see it, a faint, shimmering bridge of light connecting two distant points across the heavens. It arced like a ghostly ribbon stretching from near Mars to the edge of Jupiter's orbit. The world erupted in awe. Social media flooded with videos and shaky footage of the glowing arc, a cosmic thread, faint but undeniable, painting the sky with colors no one had seen before. But while the world stared upward, scientists noticed something terrifying. The bridge of light wasn't stationary, it was moving. Slowly, steadily, it began to shift, inching toward Earth's orbit. Every major agency, NASA, ESA, JAXA, ISRO, issued emergency meetings. They called it a field convergence. But what did that mean? Was it energy? A structure? A form of communication? Or something else entirely? Dr. Elaine Foster, one of the leading astrophysicists on the project, summarized it in a single line that spread across every newsroom on Earth. If this is a natural phenomenon, it's the most intelligent one we've ever seen. As the days passed, the field grew denser. The Earth's ionosphere began to hum faintly, not radio interference, but a real physical vibration that could be felt on sensitive instruments. Power grids fluctuated, birds migrated erratically, magnetometers around the world went haywire, and then came the sound. At first, it was only detectable on radio frequencies, a rhythmic pulse buried beneath static. But soon, shortwave radio operators began reporting a faint tone coming through their speakers. Deep, resonant, almost melodic. No one knew what it meant. Some said it was interference, others called it a coincidence. But deep space analysts confirmed it. The tone matched the frequency of the energy bridge between Object A and Object B. The two halves weren't just aligning, they were speaking. And as the alignment reached its final stage, scientists realized something chilling. The convergence point, the center of that massive electromagnetic field, was moving directly toward Earth's position in orbit. Whatever 3I, Atlas, was doing, we were about to be in the middle of it. If this story left you thinking about what lies beyond our solar system, hit that like button and subscribe. The universe still holds countless mysteries, and together, we'll keep searching the dark for answers.